My goal from the beginning of the year is to build a class community. We know that each of us has a strength, each of us have things that we want to work on, and how can we combine our strengths to help each other grow throughout this year. Why do you think they put those in bold?
Like to make sure like you see see what's there.
Yeah. Hey Thomas, we're going to borrow your book for a second. You can look with this. This is a bolded word too. What do you guys think? Why is that word in bold?
Because it's an important word in the topic.
Teaching has been most effective for me when I've taken the time to ask my students, how was your basketball game last night? How was your dance recital? And when I get to know them as individuals, they begin to trust me. That is what builds that community. So what message is the author trying to get across by including that fact on this page?
It's a fun fact and it's informative, so you know about mountains more in case you're studying the topic.
Yeah, so it's definitely informative, but it's a little bit of extra information. It's attention catching, right? One of the joys of learning is the ability to discover. This particular lesson was part of a greater research project over national parks. And so the students were able to choose a park that they were interested in, research it, and develop a presentation that really highlights the unique features of that park. And my goal with that informational piece wasn't just to get information across, wasn't just to see what they had researched and what they had found out. Sure, that was a part of it. But my goal was really for them to be able to use their voice as writers to enhance and highlight the features of the park.
And so I think it kind of brings across the message that something like needs to be done in Olympic Park about the fish, and that their numbers are declining rapidly.
So you're not only telling your reader about how there's these really unique, interesting fish there, but that there's also an issue here that they need to be alert to. I love that you're calling them to action. You're calling your reader to say, hey, there's something important here you need to know about. Can I make another suggestion as well?
Sure.
Okay. Growing up, I was a very reserved child. I loved learning and I loved thinking about things and discussing things, but I was very timid in class. And I had a lot of teachers that saw that and recognized that, and they did not make me feel like that was a negative thing, but really helped me embrace that side of my personality and give me opportunities to break out of that shell in a comfortable situation, comfortable scenario. I've always wanted to be a teacher, and I think the longer that I was in school, the more that grew from simply a love of learning and a love of being at school to I can do something with this. It really all came back to my teachers helping me find my voice and realizing that I had the same ability to do that with my students as well. I love that I think that quote is a perfect way to draw your reader's attention, and you've been very selective with what kind of information you're going to include in there. That's really smart to think. There's a lot of history behind this park, but what's going to have the most impact? So I think that's great.
Do you think I need to change the beginning of my sentences, because it's
Can you read my mind? Because that's exactly what I was going to talk to you about.
At West Intermediate, our focus and our goal is always to develop a student-centered classroom, and Brittany has done that masterfully. It's very evident that students are able to use their voice in her classroom and feel very safe and secure in doing so. She does that through Socratic seminars, through book clubs and book studies, where students often will share an opinion that isn't the same as their neighbors. From day one, Brittany establishes a relationship with each and every child. Through those relationships, she finds that one thing that is a passion for that child, or one topic that a child really wants to investigate or learn more about. So I think children naturally want to perform for her or work for her.
Brittany has a very sweet spirit about her. Her one-on-oneness is what I like to call it, is just superb. She always is patient. She always has time for a question and an answer. She's always open to a new idea.
What would make that piece a contender for your best piece ever? Take a moment and give that some thought. What would make that piece a contender? What could we add to our pieces? Easton, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that good word choice and descriptive words to describe the beauty and
activities at the park would be a good thing?
Absolutely.
My daughter has dyslexia. She really felt that Miss Hix slowed down and took everything that she didn't understand bit by bit and really wouldn't move on until, Alara and children like Alara really grasped the material. She didn't go with that 80-20 rule where, as long as 80% of the kids understand, I can feel like I've done my job and move on. I felt like Miss Hix really went out of her way to make sure that 100% of the kids understood the material before she moved on. And having a child with dyslexia, that's huge.
I have students who are on IEPs, who are considered below grade level. I have students who are identified as gifted, and I have everything in between. So naturally, with so many different students, you have to differentiate your lessons and find ways to reach all of those different students. So one of my favorite things as an educator is finding ways to reach students on all different levels. And so one thing that I feel very passionate about is collaborating with other teachers and finding ways to modify our curriculum to reach all learners.
I typically have 7 to 10 special ed children in her classroom during the year, every year. I not only, in the beginning, would give her advice, she would come to me, now I go to her and we'll bounce things off of each other. We collaborate daily. She's had some of my really tough kiddos, some autistic children, emotionally disturbed children, severely behavioral disordered children in her classroom. I have yet to find a student or a situation that rattles her.
At the beginning of the year, I remember a few of my boys approaching me and talking about how in previous years they had been labeled the troublemakers. That's what they had always been labeled as or seen themselves as, and they didn't make it seem like this year was going to be any different. And it was then at that moment that I realized these students are coming to us already ingrained in their mind who they think they are. And it is my job to show them that they can be so much more than that. At the beginning of the year, they were very rambunctious. They were often the ones blurting out in class, or if they were frustrated with the subject, they'd ask to go use the bathroom 50 times in my classroom. And as I began to gain that respect and that trust from them, they were more engaged in the lessons. They were my ones that would keep other students, hey, you need to pay attention, Miss Hix is talking. They were the ones who were not only engaged in their own learning or found ways to let me know when they were struggling, but they were the ones to keep our classroom alive and energetic. A few years ago, one of my coworkers asked me to join her to start running. And so from there, I began to join other coworkers who ran regularly, and we began training for a half marathon. Sure, the health side of it is great and being active is fantastic, but it really gives me an opportunity to build relationships with my coworkers. And it's a great opportunity for me to show students how, no matter how they perceived themselves beforehand, they have the ability, with the help of people around them, to accomplish those goals.
Jenks has gone to a one-on-one technology initiative with the Chromebooks, and Brittany has spearheaded our technology for our site. Those of us who may not be as technologically savvy as others always go to Brittany. I think Brittany represents all that is great in education. She's a young teacher who came into the profession with a passion for the craft and has exemplified that daily. We have veteran teachers who are coming to her, wanting to learn from her. I think we need young teachers being the spokesperson for Oklahoma.
As we in the state of Oklahoma look forward to finding new teachers, how do we retain those teachers? How do we mentor those teachers? How do we encourage them to stay in the profession? She has that quiet spirit about her that would let people know, I've done this, you can do this, we can do this together, and what we do really, really does matter.
It's never been the big accomplishments, the big awards that have meant the most to me. It's been those small moments when I have realized that I've overcome something, or I have done something that I never thought I would be able to do. That ability to take a risk, to get outside of my comfort zone, that's what I try to teach my students every day in class. And that's the thing I'm most proud of.